Today, we will discuss object-oriented programming. However, I believe it is a highly subjective topic, which is why debates often arise, such as why object-oriented is considered problematic, why abstraction or inheritance should be avoided, and why functional programming is deemed superior to object-oriented. It is worth noting that some of the world's best software, such as the Linux kernel, is written in procedural languages. The choice between programming paradigms often depends on how stateful your application is. For example, game development benefits greatly from object-oriented programming because real-world entities can be modeled as objects effectively. Procedural and object-oriented are just two paradigms that help us process data. Processing can be defined as procedures, while data can be understood in terms of state at both global and local levels. Later, these procedures become behaviors of objects, and the state becomes member variables in object-oriented programming. These multiple procedures are then grouped under roles and referred to as objects. I have worked on both stateful and stateless applications. Professionally, I have worked as an Android and iOS developer and solved several complex problems using object-oriented programming. For instance, I worked on a module where I had to manage the state in an application involving GPS, Maps Navigation SDK, backend REST APIs, and communication with a byte cluster over Bluetooth to display turn-by-turn navigation to the rider. I can't imagine keeping track of the information flowing through these components without object-oriented. I still remember the name of one of the key classes in this design. It was called Dispatcher. Its responsibility was to send navigation commands to the byte cluster over Bluetooth. That's how the name of this channel became Dispatch. Now, this class has become immortal because of its heroic work. That's the essence of object-oriented programming, being able to explain a problem in terms of real-world entities. My mentor used to say, object-oriented programming is like an epic fantasy drama that runs year after year. A fantasy drama has a few beloved characters who become heroes, a few despised ones who become villains, and several supporting characters. There will also be characters who only appear occasionally. Object-oriented programming is all about creating these characters and making them excel at their roles. As long as you have the best of the best characters in your story or your application, you'll be able to run it effectively for as long as you need. When we talk about object-oriented programming, we often hear terms like abstraction, inheritance, and design patterns. However, it all starts with the basic concepts of state and behavior. Typically, state is maintained at two levels: global state, defined as part of global variables, and local state, defined in terms of local variables. These two types of state can be passed to different procedures for further processing, ultimately producing final outputs as a result. We can encapsulate this scattered state into reusable units called objects. These objects are born, live their lives, and eventually get destroyed. This means they change over time because they are mutable. However, they can't change themselves. Some external force must act upon them. This is where behavior comes into play. Objects have behavior, and they receive messages from other objects to perform tasks through their behavior. As these tasks are performed, the state of the objects changes over time. For example, sending a start message to a car object starts its engine, which is encapsulated within the car object as part of its state. Let's see how object-oriented programming helps in writing code when dealing with real-world objects. We will implement the same problem statement using both procedural and object-oriented styles. First, let's examine the procedural approach to designing a toll booth system for collecting tolls from vehicles. We will design two types of toll booths. The first type will be a cash-based toll booth, and the second will be a digital toll booth that scans a barcode on the vehicle and collects the toll amount digitally. We can add as many booths as we want for these two types. To begin, we will define a few global variables to store all the information processed by the toll booths. First, we will define a constant for the number of toll booths in the system. Next, we will define an array to hold one integer value for each toll booth, representing the number of vehicles that have passed through each booth. We will also define a second array to store the total revenue generated by each toll booth. Additionally, we will maintain a type for all toll booths to indicate whether they are digital or cash-based. Finally, we will define a list to store the number plates of vehicles that have passed through each toll booth. As you can see, most of the state in this program is declared globally. The downside of this approach is that all of this data is visible to all parts and methods of the code. Any part of the code can access and modify it at will, which requires extra caution. Next, we will initialize the number plates in the static part of the code. This serves as an alternative to a constructor in procedural programming. This ensures that our data structures are ready before executing the procedures. We will declare a function to handle passing cars through the toll booths. This function takes the booth number as input and processes the car for that specific booth. Based on the booth number and its type, the car is processed accordingly. If the booth type is digital, the function will read the barcode on the vehicle and collect the toll amount digitally. It will then update the total revenue and record the number plates for this specific toll booth. For a cash-based booth, the function will simply collect cash for that booth. Now let's talk about the scattered state we discussed earlier. In this procedural approach, multiple behaviors are tied to a single input, the toll booth number. The pass car function must figure out the context from global variables based on the booth type. There is no dedicated context for the pass car function, which makes managing the state and behavior less intuitive. Object-oriented programming addresses this problem by encapsulating the context for each type of toll booth inside an object. The state associated with each booth is stored within the object itself. The pass car function, or behavior, is then added to this object and becomes specific to that particular context. Now, let's see how this can be implemented using object-oriented programming. Let's define an abstract context for a toll booth as its state. This state will be initialized when the object is created. Next, we will define an abstract pass car method, ensuring that each specific toll booth type has its own implementation. Another method will be used to record car passages by tracking all relevant data points. Finally, we'll add a method to view statistics for each booth. The digital toll booth class will extend the toll booth class, ensuring that a digital toll booth is, in fact, a type of toll booth. Note the is-a relationship between these two. The digital toll booth scans the barcode and records the car passage. Similarly, the cash-based toll booth class also extends toll booth and collects cash while recording car passages. If you observe, none of these classes contain conditional statements. That's because these conditions are replaced by specific types of objects, each with its own dedicated state and behavior. Objects help encapsulate scattered states at various levels of code, ensuring that behaviors have immediate access to the required context. This eliminates the need for behaviors to determine the state from a global context. This is the fundamental elegance of object-oriented programming. If you have a different understanding of object-oriented programming, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Thank you.